What's going on, everybody? It's the Bearded One, back with another beer review. Perfect kind of weather for Belgian White. We're here with Yellowhammer Brewing, their flagship Belgian White. All of you people who live in North Alabama know this can. Been around for years. The beer has, anyways. And it is my favorite style. The Belgian White, or the wit beer, or what else have I heard it called? White ale. I've heard it called white ale before. And traditionally, it is a Belgian wheat ale with coriander and orange peel, orange zest. And then they'll try to add some phenols in there to get some clove, and depending on the brewery, you might get more or less esters, which would be more of a banana style. Now the clove and banana won't be so overpowering. The coriander and orange would usually be the dominating flavors, but it all just depends on the brewery and what they prefer to have in their recipe. Couldn't find too much about this beer. Went on the website. They didn't have like any funny stories to tell about the beer or any fantastic marketing, which, you know, not every beer is going to have a great story behind it, even though they're quite enjoyable to read. But the recipe is a little interesting. So they brew this with kaffir leaves, chamomile, not chamomile tea, chamomile, and ginger. So that'll be interesting. I've had this beer before, and I don't really want to spoil what I thought about it the first time. But there was a point when Yellowhammer kind of turned me off, because what Yellowhammer likes to do is they like to take traditional European styles, mostly German and Belgian, and they like to put a spin on them to make them their own. And this is one of them that they like to make their own. Now they've branched out into IPAs and sours, and they've added more American styles to their repertoire. But their flagships are still German beers with a Yellowhammer twist on them. This one being the kaffir leaves, the chamomile, and the ginger. This one was brewed on, or it was packaged on July 21st of 20-something. It's at least 10 months old, which is okay with me because this isn't a terribly hoppy beer. They put one hop cone out of 7, and then 2 malt, on their scale. I'm not sure if you can read it. It would be the lighter green is where it's marked. 2 malt varieties out of 7 on the scale. I don't know why I said varieties. Just thought it was a smart thing to say. So yeah, by no means am I an expert on beer, but I am most experienced with the Belgian white or wheat beer category. I'm not so sure it's my favorite beer style anymore. However, it will probably always be a favorite of mine, and a style I will always revisit quite occasionally. It's just gotten to a point now where I've had so much beer that it's hard for me to rank it anymore. So no head. It is a pearly white head, so pretty white, but there's nothing there, and it dissipated fairly quick. These are supposed to be lawnmower beers, as I've heard Greg's Beer Reviews call it. 4.8% alcohol. I think that these beers have a little more flavor than what I would call a lawnmower beer, something like a pale American lager or a cream ale. Yeah, I would say these have a little more flavor, a little more complexity to them than something like that. However, they are pretty light. They are pretty easy drinking. Very sessionable beers. Not meant to be something you need to contemplate the mysteries of the universe while drinking. Yeah, I get the ginger. I'm thinking I get the kaffir leaves. I'm not terribly familiar with chamomile. I get this like lemony flavor that dances around with the ginger. That could be the chamomile. There's the phenols. I'm getting those classic wit beer phenols. Clove phenols. Phenols could be different things. Crackery malt base. Very hard to find that crackery malt base. Maybe white bread. I think the orange is floating around it. Maybe they didn't use orange. I'm getting more of a lemon thing, but there's definitely a citrus element to this, which fits to style, even though they kind of brewed this out of style, at least in the traditional sense. If you're Randy Mosher, you believe that all beer is beer, no matter what, as long as you're brewing it, you know, and you're sticking to the methods of what making beer is. So that the ginger, it kind of sticks out the most, and it swirls around with the phenols, the clove, and it makes the clove come off as cinnamon, but there's no cinnamon in here, I'm pretty sure. But it does taste like a spiced wit beer because of that. There's some kind of a light citrusy element here. I'm not getting the orange peel, the orange zest. There's a floral component here that could be. There's my dog, my Poppers. Sweet girl. Just love our pets, don't we? If you're a pet owner, you can't go wrong with having a pet around. There's a floral component in here, so I'm gonna say it's the chamomile. I've never smelled or tasted kaffir leaves, but hold on. I just tasted something. It comes off as, I feel like I'm tasting something minty or maybe menthol like. Not powerful like menthol, but just a slight spearmint. If the kaffir leaves have held up over time, because I can't verify, I can't articulate for sure. Comprehend would be a better word, I think. there's some kind of like a very faint minty grassy element in here. It's just very subtle. It just kind of plays around with that clove and that ginger as like an accent flavor. Maybe that's the kaffir leaves. I'm not too sure. No hops on this thing. There's never supposed to be hops, although you can have hoppy wit beers. You could have hoppy any styles, especially if it's coming from America. We just love to hop beers up in America. Sometimes I don't understand why. I feel like we hop things up just to hop them, but you know, that's just how we are in America, you know. And not all hop forward beers are bad. It's an okay beer. I think I'd like to have this fresh again. When I did have it that first time, it was fresh. I'll go ahead and say I wasn't crazy about it the first time. And then that with theirs, as they call it, traditional German beers with a southern twist. As kind of used to be their mantra. I don't think that's so much true anymore, as they've strayed more towards American styles these days, which there's nothing wrong with that, but that kind of turned me off to the brewery. However, I have explored them again, and my palate has developed, and I think the beer's okay. It's a solid beer. I'm going, you know, well, before we grade, I just say this beer in particular, I think fits beginners' palates. If you're a wit beer enthusiast, I would say this is a beer to just try at least one time, just to say you've tried this recipe. You know, a wit beer with ginger and kaffir leaf and chamomile in it. But I just wouldn't recommend this as like, man, go out and get a 6-pack of this Belgian White to somebody who prefers wit beers like myself. But I do think this beer could be a good, easy drinking beer for anybody out there looking for something that they don't have to think a whole lot about. That they just want to crack open a beer that's still flavorful and tastes good, but yet isn't so complex and deep that they gotta sip it and ponder the universe, you know, while they're sipping on it. As far as the grade goes, I've been going back and forth in my head about it. It's my favorite style. I guess it's my favorite style. I don't think my favorite beer is a wit beer anymore. But I do still think this style is still my favorite style. And a lot of that has to do with the accessibility of the palate. So yeah, it being my favorite style bumps it up. The age kind of bumps it down. The ingredients notch it down a little bit for me. I don't really like ginger anyways. I've never had kaffir leaves, so I'm not sure I can comprehend what kaffir is in this beer, if it's even still in there after a year. And then I'm not big on like herbal teas or anything, so the chamomile, while I do like floral beers, I do like floral aromas in general. I'm just not big on it here, especially the chamomile, but it's not terrible. So I do like the phenols in this beer. I feel like that kind of elevates it, adds some complexity to it. So I'm gonna be a little generous here. I'm not lying. It's an honest review, honest grading. But I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. I think it deserves a B- rating, bare minimum. A lot of that could possibly have to do with age. Again, this beer is possibly a year old. The last number in the year is kind of faded off, so it could be 2, 3, 4 years old. I don't know. If it's 4 years old, this beer held up fantastically for 4 years. However, that's probably unrealistic. Oh, there's a little bit of carbonation here, not a lot, but it's coming up, as you can see. We didn't go over the mouthfeel. Fairly watery mouthfeel. I thought it was devoid of carbonation, but as you can see, it was coming up. Got to be a little bit of carbonation in there. There's always carbonation in beer, I would think. It just, some beers are more carbonated than others. So the watery mouthfeel, refreshing quality, not crisp, not clean, but definitely refreshing. And then we're giving it the 3.0 out of 5. So that does it for me tonight. Here's the can, guys. Again, now I kind of remember that I showed you guys the can, but here's the can anyways. Again, cute little design of chamomile. Yellowhammer, Belgian White, 3.5 out of 5. Until next time, guys. Cheers.